जदि आप पार्ट 1 देखी ना तेज डिस्क्रिप्शन में लिंक अच्छी आप जमी पार्ट 1 देखूँ तापर पार्ट 2 देखिए।
यार उदाहरण जो देखा एबे आप न्यूज रे देखिथिबे आम गवर्नमेंट स्टारलिंक को भारत में चालू करने अनुमति दे देइछंती। जो मैंने स्टारलिंक कौन जानी ना सर्ट रे कही दूची कि स्टारलिंक कंपनी इलोन मस्क गोटे कंपनी ए कंपनी कौन करे ना सैटेलाइट जरिया रिमोट एरिया माने आम जो गाँ गहली गला जोटा दुर्गम स्थान सब अच्छी से इंटरनेट सेवा उपलब्ध करने ये कंपनी स्टार्ट होइछि। एबे भारत सरकार भारत में स्टारलिंक आरंभ करने मंजूरी दे देइछंती। आपण भाबुथिबे बा बढ़िया हला स्टारलिंक भारत में आरंभ हेले आम गाँ गहली सुविधार सब इंटरनेट मिल जिवो। किंतु एबे शुणंतु ए प्रोपागांडा पछरे कोन सब भयंकर षड्यंत्र चलीछि। प्रथम षड्यंत्र हैला माने स्टारलिंक निजर सैटेलाइट सब 120 रु 200 किलोमीटर ऊपर स्थापन करछि। जोटी आमर जो सैटेलाइट अच्छी जोड़ा इसरो जोड़ा सब पठाऊँगी से सब कम्युनिकेशन सैटेलाइट सब 35,000 36,000 किलोमीटर ऊपर सब स्थापना होती। आज जाए स्टारलिंक 10,000 सैटेलाइट छाड़ी सारी जेहेतु से सब मात्र 120 रु 200 किलोमीटर भितर सब अच्छा से आम कम्युनिकेशन सैटेलाइट सिग्नाल सब इंटरफेरेन्स कर भावुए इंटरफेयर कले कौन है सब धरिन आमर ए पाकिस्तान सहित जो युद्ध हम जदि अमेरिका चाहिए से स्टारलिंक सैटेलाइट जरिया आम कम्युनिकेशन सैटेलाइट सिग्नाल सब ब्लॉक करदेव तो आमको शत्रुर पोजिशन ठीक जना पड़े माने शत्रु कौटी अच्छी आम ठीक से जानीपर तो आमको युद्ध लड़ार आमको मुस्किल हम। सेकेंड षड्यंत्र है दुनिया रे आपन देखिए जोटी जोटी सब कॉन्फ्लिक्ट स्टार्ट हो जाउची सेठी हठात सेठी स्टारलिंक रो व्यवहार एक्सपोनेंशियली बढ़ी जाउची माने हठात स्टारलिंक अत्यधिक भाव में व्यवहार तार सेठी स्टार्ट हो जाउची जेमती यूक्रेन हेगला ईरान हेगला वेनेजुएला हेगला यार कारण कौन हो पारे आपन कौन चिंता करछन। बांग्लादेश रे गोटे मोबाइल कंपनी अच्छी ता ना ग्रामीण फोन एटा कहार ना से जो मोहम्मद यूनुस आप शुणुवे जे इंटरिम गवर्नमेंट जे हेड थिला एबे मोहम्मद यूनुस तारी कंपनी एटा से स्टारलिंक सहित तार इंटरनेट सर्विस पाई तार गोटे एग्रीमेंट करथिला तापर देखिले आपण बांग्लादेश रे कोन कोन सब हेला ता गवर्नमेंट चेंज हेगला देश जाक दंगा फसाद माड़ीगला। आप चिंता करूँ जो देशर पर कैपिटा इनकम आप मासु जदि आम काउंट कैलकुलेट करवा 20,000 21,000 हम से देश में 34 माने स्टारलिंक रो गोटे अच्छे ट्रांसपोंडर तुमको किनिया पड़ो से 34,000 टका पड़ो आ मासु मास तुमको ता बाबद 8,000 दबा पड़ो मैंने भावतु जार पर कैपिटा इनकम 20-21,000 रोजगार कर 34,000 देकी किणव ट्रांसपोंडर किणव आ पुणी मासु मास 8,000 लेखा दब आप चिंता करो ताल कौन पाई सेटा एग्रीमेंट होता आप चिंता करूँ। तृतीय षड्यंत्र है मणिपुर दंगारे जो नॉर्थ ईस्ट जो दंगा होता मणिपुर में से किसी आतंकवादी धरा पड़ते पाखु स्टारलिंक ट्रांसपोंडर मिलता माने आमको कहुच्छी कि आम रिमोट एरिया इंटरनेट प्रोवाइड करूँ किंतु एक्चुअली देखिले विश्वर जिते प्रकार सब आतंकवादी तंत्र सब अच्छा भितर स्टारलिंक पूरा पपुलर हो जाए तेल माफिया हूँ कि कौ जंगल भितर रही जम्मू काश्मीर जंगल हो कि नॉर्थ ईस्ट जंगल हो से जो रोचे स्टारलिंक यूज कर कम्युनिकेट कर इंडिया रे धरा पड़ानी बोली से कौन कर धन्य फिलिपीन्स होगा कि म्यांमार होगा कि पाख सब देश स्टारलिंक ऑन किणुंट सेठू तार जो आमर जमी मोबाइल जमी आम थर बाहर पड़े आम रोमिंग लगे सेमती रोमिंग स्टेट रे नहीं आस इंडिया भितर को आनिकिना काम चलाउछन इंडिया जो ट्रैक करुच्ची से सब इंडिया रे देखा जाउनी धरिया भारी कष्ट कारण से रोमिंग रे चली तार ओरिजिनल लोकेशन सब बाहर देश देखा। चतुर्थ षड्यंत्र हूँ आपण मैंने शुणिले साइकोलॉजिकल सबवर्जन थर्ड स्टेज हूँ आमर क्राइसिस बा सिविल वार स्टेट माने देशव्यापी दंगा फसाद सब व्यापीज प्रशासन रू जदि कहीं देखुंत तेज एक कथार कन्फर्म करेंगे कि जो जगह दंगा फसाद हुए सेठी प्रशासन पक्षर प्रथम स्टेप कौन नि जाए प्रशासन प्रथम से 144 लागू कर मोबाइल और इंटरनेट सेवा बंद कर किंतु जेहेतु जदि स्टारलिंक जन यूज करुच्ची सरकार चाहिए भी इंटरनेट बंद कर पारिबनी कारण से डायरेक्ट सैटेलाइट सहित जो माने कनेक्ट होइछि तेणुकरी सेटा अमेरिका हाथ में अमेरिका इच्छा उपर निर्भर करिवो माने अमेरिका चाहिए नेट बंद हम ऑन रहिबो माने मुझे बुझीपारनी गवर्नमेंट सैटेलाइट फोन उपर एते रेस्ट्रिक्शन लगे माने पुलिस आर्मी माने ये खाली यूज करेंगे आ किणवा भी बहुत कष्ट सैटेलाइट फोन पाइबा बहुत कष्ट किंतु स्टारलिंक केमिति से अलाउ कर देचंदी अलाउ करचंदी आसीबा।
The point. The next step is destabilization. Again, this word says for itself what it is: to destabilize all the relations, all the accepted institutions and organizations in the country of your enemy. How you do it? You don't have to send up a battalion of KGB agents to blow up bridges. No, you let them do it themselves. The area of application is again, it's narrower now. not like the previous case. The overt legitimate actions of the KGB in this case would be hardly noticeable. There is no crime if a professor who recently went to USSR introduces a course of Marxism-Leninism in a Californian college, for example. Nobody is going to come to his doorstep and say, okay, mister, come, you're under arrest. No, it's not a crime. It's not even considered a moral crime against your country. So the area of application here is narrowing down to economy, again, labor relations, right? To law and order, plus military. And economy, law and order. Yes, and again, the media, but wider scope, a little bit different. I'll explain later. Okay, basically 3 areas. Economy, the radicalization of bargaining process. If on that stage we still could achieve, theoretically, some positive compromise between the negotiating sides with say, the arbitrary introduction of arbitrary judges, a third side, objectively judging the demands of both sides. Here, it's radicalization. On the stage of destabilization, we cannot come to compromise even within a family. The husband and wife couldn't figure out which is better. Husband wants his kids to eat at the table, and wife wants a child to roam around the room and drop food all over the floor. They cannot come to compromise unless they start a fight. It's impossible to reach a compromise, constructive compromise, between neighbors. Some people say, I don't like you to watering your lawn at that time because exactly at that time I'm walking my dog and he's getting nervous. He cannot pass his bowels, you know. So they cannot compromise. They go to a civil court or something like that. Radicalization of human relations. No more compromise. Fight, fight, fight. The normal, traditionally accepted relations are destabilized. The relations between teachers and students in schools and colleges. Fight. The relations between, in economical sphere, between laborers and employers are further radicalized. No more acceptance of the legitimacy of demands of workers. Unlike Japanese, with the theory Z, if you ever heard about it, where the workers are involved in the decision-making process, therefore they don't have moral incentive to fight their bosses. In the United States, it's just the opposite. The harder is the fight, the better. The more heroic they look. When the Greyhound network was on strike recently, the correspondents of local TV networks all over the United States were approaching the strikers, and they say, oh yes, we are doing something nice. They look like heroes and they were proud. There was some family, the husband was bus driver. Now they decided in a protest against the bosses to camp somewhere in the forest. And they were presented to the audience as a heroic, nice people, you see. The violent clashes between passengers, picketers, and the strikers are presented as something normal. 10, 15, 20 years ago, we would be angry, say, why so much hatred? Today we are not. We say, well, commonplace. Radicalization, militarization sometimes. As I explained on that stage, I took a step a little bit further. Shooting people. Okay, law and order now also is pushed into the area where previously people settled their differences peacefully and legitimately. Now, we are getting, with this court cases, in the smallest irrelevant cases, we cannot solve our problems anymore. The society at large becomes more and more antagonistic between individuals, between groups of individuals, and the society at large. The media puts himself in the opposition to the society in general, at large. Separate, alienated. Okay? On that stage, you remember I was talking a couple of hours ago about the sleepers. That's when the students from, say, United States, if they're trained in Lumumba University, or developing nations, that's the students I was dealing with, are being sent back from the Soviet Union here. Or if they were already in the United States, in the country, which is the object of subversion, they spring to action. The sleepers go up. They slept for 15 to 20 years. Now they become leaders of groups, preachers, I don't know, public figures. Prominently, they actively include themselves in a political process. All of a sudden, we see a homosexual. 15 years ago, he did his dirty job and nobody cared. Now he makes it a political issue. A political issue. He demands recognition, respect, human rights, and he rallies a large group of people. And there are violent clashes between him and police, his group and ordinary people, no matter what. It's black against white, yellows against green, doesn't matter where the division line goes. As long as this group come into antagonistic clash, sometimes militantly, sometimes with firearms, that is the destabilization process. The sleepers, many of whom are simply KGB agents, become leaders of the process of destabilization. Doesn't mean that Comrade Andropov sends Comrade Ivanov to the United States. The person who takes care is already here. He's a respected citizen of the United States. Sometimes he gets money from various foundations for his legitimate struggle for, I don't know, human rights, women's rights, kid lead, prison lead, whatever. There are sympathetic Americans who donate their money to him. Destabilization process usually leads directly to the process of crisis. In case of developing nations, that's the area where I was active. The process starts when the legitimate bodies of power, the social structure collapse, it cannot function anymore. So instead, we have artificial body injected into society, such as non-elected committees. You remember I was talking about them here. Social workers who are not elected by people, media who are self-appointed rulers of your opinion, some strange groups which claim that they know how to lead society forward. They don't usually. All they care is how to collect donations and sell their own concocted ideology, mixture of religion and ideology. Here, we have all this artificial body claiming power. If the power is denied to them, they take it by force. In case of Iran, for example, all of a sudden we have revolutionary committees. What kind of revolution? There was no revolution yet, and yet they had the committees. They were taking power of judgment. They had the power of execution, they had the power of legislation, and that they had the power of judicial. All of them combined in one person, who is half-baked intellectual, sometimes graduated from Harvard University or Berkeley. He comes back to his country and he thinks that he knows the answer to all the social economical problems. Okay? Crisis is when society cannot function anymore productively. It collapses, obviously, that's the word for crisis. So therefore, the population at large is looking for a savior. The religious groups are expecting a messiah to come. The workers say, we have family to feed. Let's have a strong government, maybe socialist government, centralized. When somebody put their employers on their place and let us work. We are sick and tired of going to strike and missing overtime and all that stuff. We need some strong man, strong government, a leader, a savior is needed. Population is sick and tired already. And here we are, we have a savior. Either a foreign nation comes in, or the local group of leftists, Marxists, no matter what they call themselves, Sandinista, a reverend or some sort, Bishop Muzureva, like in Zimbabwe, doesn't matter. A savior comes and says, I will lead you. So we have two alternatives here. Civil war and invasion. Okay? See how it goes? Civil war, we know what it is. Lebanon is the best example. The civil war, which was artificially implanted in Lebanon by injection of force of PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. Invasion, we have in many other countries like Afghanistan. Name any East European country, it was invaded by the Soviet army. But the result is the same. The next stage is normalization. Normalization is a very ironic word, of course. It is borrowed from 1968 situation in Czechoslovakia, when the Soviet propaganda, and after them New York Times declared the country is normalized. The tanks moved into Prague, so there's no more Prague Spring, there's no more violence, normalization. At that stage, the self-appointed rulers of the society don't need any revolution anymore. They don't need any radicalism anymore. So this is the reverse from destabilization. Basically, it is stabilizing the country by force. So all these sleepers and activists and social workers and liberals and homosexuals and professors and Marxists and Leninists are being eliminated physically sometimes. They've done their job already. Okay? They are not needed anymore. The new rulers need stability to exploit the nation, to exploit the country, to take advantages of the victory. Okay? So no more revolutionaries, please. And that's exactly what happens in a number of countries. You remember Bangladesh? This is the crisis in which I was instrumental. First they had Mujibur Rahman. In 1971, he was the leader of People's Party, Awami League, with mustache like Stalin. He was in Russia many times. In 5 years, he was shot by his former colleagues, Marxists. He fulfilled his function. In Afghanistan, it happened 3 times. First there was Taraki, then there was Amin, now there's Babrak Karmal. They killed each other successively, one after another. The moment he fulfills his duty, the first one demoralized country, the second destabilized, the third one brought it to crisis. Goodbye, comrades. Babrak Karmal comes from Moscow and put into the seat of power. Same thing happened in Grenada recently. Maurice Bishop, Marxist, was killed by Austin, what's his name, General something, who was also a Marxist. Right? So no more revolutions, please. Normalization now. From now on, no more strikes, no more homosexuals, no more women lead, no more kid lead, no more lead, period. Good, solid, democratic, proletarian freedom. That's it. Now, to reverse this process takes enormous effort. When today, United States had to invade Grenada to reverse the process of subversion. Some people say, boy, this is not good, it's not kosher to invade the beautiful country, island of Grenada. Well, why didn't you stop the process here, when Grenada was just approached by leftists? Why not to prevent Maurice Bishop to come in power in the first place? Did Grenadians want him? Very questionable. They didn't know who was Maurice Bishop in the first place. He came to power by coup d'etat himself. Okay? No, we let the situation develop further and further and further until the crisis and normalization very soon. And then the United States decided to invade country, discovering that the country was absolutely a military base for the Soviet Union. Of course it's a drastic measure. Of course it's a pity that Marine Corps had to lose, 17 lives. Very bad. Why not to stop the process before it comes to crisis? Oh no, intellectuals will not let you. It's interference into domestic affairs. They're very careful not to let American administration to interfere in domestic affairs of Latin American countries. They don't mind Soviet Union interfere in this affair. Okay. So to reverse this process, from here, it takes only and always military force. No other force on earth can reverse this process at this point. At this point, it does not take military invasion of the United States Army. It takes strong action, like in Chile, a CIA covert involvement, to prevent the savior from outside to come into power, and to stabilize country before it erupts into civil war. Okay? Support the right-wing conservative forces, by money, by crooks or love, doesn't matter. Stabilize the country. Don't let the crisis develop into civil war or invasion. Oh no, your liberals will say it's against the law. The Congress will not appropriate money for covert actions of CIA. Why not? Should we wait till the normalization comes and Soviet tanks land in Los Angeles airport? Now, at that point, at the point of destabilization, also the process could be reversed. Again, easily than this. No CIA involvement at this point. You know what it takes here? Restriction of some liberties for small groups which are self-declared enemies of the society. As simple as that. Oh no, the media and liberals will tell you this is against the American Constitution. How can we, by force, deny the civil rights to criminals, for example? It's not good. Okay? So we allow them to. Okay, if you allow the criminals to have civil rights, go on and bring the country to the crisis. This is a bloodless way to do. Curb the rights. I mean, not to put them in prison. No, I'm not talking about putting all the gays from San Francisco in the concentration camp. Do not allow them to take political force. Do not elect them to the seats of power, whether it is municipality level, state level, or federal level. It has to be beaten in the heads of American voters that a person like that in the seats of power is an enemy. Do not be afraid of this word. It is an enemy. If he is not an enemy here, he will be here. Later on, he will be shot, of course. But at this point, he is an enemy. Okay? You are doing great service by denying him a right to capitalize on his own crazy ideas and become a powerful man, a man who uses the seat of power. Restriction of certain freedoms and permissiveness at that point would prevent sliding into crisis and probably will return the process of destabilization. To curb unlimited power, monopolistic power of trade unions, here, at that point, would save economy from collapsing. To introduce a law to stop private companies of raping public opinion's mind in the direction of consumerism. No company must have a right to force you into buying more unless you want it. There must be a law. You want to advertise your car? Okay. But not a single mentioning of buying it now and saving money. It must be against the law to force people to consume more. Self-restraint. Previously, before this process started, the self-restraint was the business of church, religion. Because our preachers, the fathers of church, would tell us, material values are good, but it's not the prime function of human beings. Because you have to live with something. Obviously, the design for our life is not to consume more deodorants. There must be something greater. If such a complicated instrument as human body was created, obviously there must be some higher purpose for that. And it's very easy to avoid destabilization by denying the greedy companies one little freedom, one little liberty, forcing you into turning yourself into processors of unwanted products and goods. They turn you into machines, like the worm who there's inlet and outlet. So, and how long an average appliance lasts these days? Less than a year. Why? Where's workmanship? Well, we want you to buy more. Okay. Destabilization process could be easily overcome if, as I say, the society, by its own will or after persuasion by the leaders, will come to the idea of self-restraint. It's so hard we want to consume more, but you have to. Unless you will come to this stage, when, as we say in Russia, if Sahara Desert ever becomes a communist state, there'll be shortage of sand. So you have to curb your... You have to curb your expectations at this point before it's too late. But no, we don't want to do it. Demoralization process. Again, it's the easiest thing to reverse. First of all, by restricting import of propaganda. The easiest thing to do. Unlimited, unrestrained import of Soviet literature, Soviet journalists. Giving Soviet propaganda and ideological agitators equal time on American TV network. It has to be stopped. And it's easy. They won't be offended, mind you. As a matter of fact, they will respect America more. But when my former colleague Vladimir Posner appears on Nightline, and Ted Koppel asks him, well, Vladimir, what do you think about this? And what can he think? He is an instrument of propaganda. He thinks what Comrade Andropov tells him to think. He's just a nice, articulate mouthpiece of the Soviet subversion system. And Ted Koppel makes you believe that my friend Vladimir Posner thinks. The process of demoralization may not have started at all if at that point the country, which is a recipient of subversion, actively, not violently, but actively, prevents importation of foreign ideology. I don't want America to follow the pattern of ancient Japan. You don't have to shoot every foreigner when it approaches the sacred borders of the United States. But when he offers you a junk in the disguise of very shiny something, you have to tell him, no, we have our own junk. If at that point the society is strong, brave, and conscientious enough to stop importation of ideas which are foreign, then the whole chain of events could be prevented. Recently I've been to the Philippines, and I was shocked how in big cities like Manila, children listen to deafening music. A melodious nation with long traditions of good, nice ethnic music, introduced by Spanish long time ago, maybe 2 centuries, 3 centuries ago, I don't remember how. All of a sudden listen to musical garbage, blasting their radios at full blast, at full volume. Why? In India, I spent many years watching the reactions of Indians walking out of movie theaters after seeing Hollywood production. They couldn't figure out why Americans are so wasteful. They smash their cars, their shiny cars, every 5 minutes. How come they shoot each other for $500,000? Is it true that they're so obsessed with sex? Can you imagine showing a movie where each 5 minutes there's a copulation on the screen to a country like India with long tradition of respect to this private matters, or to Pakistan? And United States expect these people to respect it? No way. Oh yes, they will see the movie, they'll pay 5 rupees to see that garbage, but they walk out and will tell their kids, don't respect Americans, don't be like Americans. See? So, the process of demoralization could be stopped right here, both as an expert and as an import. And that takes one step, one very important thing to do. You don't have to expel all the KGB agents from Washington, D.C. The most difficult and at the same time the simplest answer to the subversion is to start it here and even before, by bringing back the society to religion, something that you cannot touch and eat and put on yourself, but something that rules society and makes it move and preserve it. A Soviet scientist, Shafarevich, who has nothing to do with religion, is a computer scientist, did a very intensive research on the history of socialist countries. He calls socialist or communist any country with a centralized economy and a pyramidal style of power structure. And he discovered, actually he didn't discover it, he just brought to attention of his readers, that civilizations like Mohenjo-Daro in the river Indus area, like Egypt, like Maya, Incas, like Babylonian culture, collapsed and disappeared from the surface of Earth the moment they lost religion. As simple as that. They disintegrated. Nobody remembers about them anymore. Well, distantly. So, the ideas are moving society and keeping mankind as a society of human beings, intelligent, moral agents of God. The facts, the truth, the exact knowledge may not. All the sophisticated technology and computers will not prevent society from disintegrating and eventually dying out. Have you ever met a person who would sacrifice his life, freedom, for the truth like that? This is truth. I never met a person who said, this is truth and I'm ready to shoot me. To defend the truth. Right? But millions sacrifice their life, freedom, comfort, everything for things like God. Like Jesus Christ. It's an honor. Some martyrs in the Soviet concentration camp died. And they died in peace. Unlike those who shouted, long live Stalin, knowing perfectly well that he may not live long. Something which is not material moves society and helps it to survive. And the other way around, the moment we turn into 2 by 2 is 4 and make it a guiding principle of our life, our existence, we die. Even though this is true, and this we cannot prove. We only can feel and have faith in it. So the answer to ideological subversion, strangely enough, is very simple. You don't have to shoot people, you don't have to aim missiles and Pershings and cruise missiles at Andropov's headquarters. You simply have to have faith and prevent subversion. In other words, not to be a victim of subversion. Don't try to be a person who in judo is trying to smash your enemy and being caught by your hand. Don't strike like that. Strike with the power of your spirit and moral superiority. If you don't have the power, it's high time to develop it. And that's the only answer. That's it.
Thank you.
जदि ये वीडियो गोटे समरी देवी ताहले साइकोलॉजिकल सबवर्जन बा मानसिक दासत्व से केमिति स्प्रेड करते प्रथम स्टेप है डिमोरालाइजेशन माने एई स्टेप रे से आम रूट रु बा आम संस्कृति रु हमको अलग करदेवे तो से गोटे शून्य स्थान गुड़ा सृष्टि हम तो सेकेंड स्टेज हूँ डिस्टेबलाइजेशन माने से जो शून्य स्थान को से निजर फेक नैरेटिव या प्रोपागेंडा रे भर्ती करदेवे तो लोक प्रोटेस्ट करिया स्टार्ट करदेवे थर्ड स्टेप हूँ क्राइसिस माने सिविल वार हो माने गोटे ग्रुप को अन्य ग्रुप सहित लड़िया स्टार्ट हो शेष स्टेप रे कहे बहुत हो गला आपको नॉर्मल ए सिचुएशन को नॉर्मल आमे ही करि परिबु लोक को भरोसा दे देबे जे आमे ही ए सिचुएशन को नॉर्मल को आनि परिबु आ के आनि परिबे तो एमिति से चिरदिन गोटे देश को गुलाम कर